Now, are we going to be talking to Josie soon, are we, Josh? Oh, she's good to go whenever I'm ready to go? Oh, well, we might as well good to go now. Yesterday, I live in Cromwell, as you know, in central Otago, and I live in the Otago region. I think yesterday I went and talked to a sort of a gathering or a retreat of the Queenstown Lakes District Council elected members, the new mayor, and I think they've got a council of 11 or 12 councillors as well. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday afternoon was the large number of fast track projects that are in the Queenstown Lakes region. And I think or in central Otago. So we know those two areas for those of us who live down here, something called Central Lakes region. So it's a combination of central Otago, Queenstown, Wanaka, and sort of all those areas around there. And I'm pretty sure that of all the regions in New Zealand, or at least in terms of population, it would be per capita the fast track capital of New Zealand, I would think. Many of them are housing developments, but there are other fast track developments as well. And one of them just down the road from me, about 30k south, or more like sort of 30k east actually. No, west, east west, is the Santana mineral mines, which, as you know, Central Otago was the place where gold was discovered. Gabriel's Gully, you've all done your history at school and your social studies. And the gold discovery that made not just, pardon me, Central Otago, but it also changed the landscape and the environment as well, because those early settlers flooded here in their tens of thousands, including a very strong Chinese population too. And they changed literally the landscape of this region. And you can see that changed landscape. In actual fact, they are a tourist attraction all of their own. Just down the road, for example, from me, as the crows fly, just in Bannockburn, for example, there are a whole series of sluicings that were created as the 19th century miners literally poured water over the hillsides to get at the gold that was underneath. Well, Santana Minerals, an Australian-based company, have discovered an enormous gold seam running through, again, you would expect this particular area of the world, and they have applied under fast track to commence a gold mining operation in Terrace, which will conservatively reap, and I think we've had Donald Spring, the chief executive of Donald Spring, the chief executive of Santana on the show, billions of dollars worth of gold over the next 10 to 20 years. But there are also a number of other mining operations in New Zealand, including in Waihi and the Coromandel, at Oceania Gold, which we've talked about, and the Macraes gold mine in Otago proper, just sort of around Palmerston Way. There are mining projected for the west coast of the South Island as well, and we have got a significant amount of precious metals potentially that are covered currently by soil and rock that New Zealand might reasonably explore as well. So the future of the New Zealand mining industry looks quite bright. In addition to off the coast of Waverley, there is the idea of mining offshore iron sand for the point and purpose of extracting iron, obviously, and creating a new export industry. None of these are without their contentions, and yesterday, 2 days ago, sorry, the Green Party announced that yesterday, if they would to be part of any coalition government in the future, and that might be as little as a year away, they would immediately void all mining licenses obtained under fast track legislation in this country, and presumably without compensation. Well, to join us to talk about that and the chilling prospects that this might or might not have upon international investment in the mining industry and upon the mining industry in general, we're joined by Josie Vidal, I think it is, rather than Vidal, from the New Zealand Minerals Council, and she joins us now. Josie, there are two ways of saying Vidal or Vidal. There's the Gore Vidal way, Gore Vidal, or as Vidals as in Vidal Wines that's in Hawke's Bay. Which is your pronunciation, if I might ask?
So I am from the Vitals Wine of Hawke's Bay, and obviously we were immigrants in a country that didn't and possibly still doesn't really love immigrants. And so we flattened the vowels. So the correct pronunciation is Vidal, but I answer to anything really.
Oh, so you're part of the fantastic. I listen. It was a fantastic winery you created in
It
Hastings. I
was,
think
yes, and the
nineteen
restaurant was
eighties.
great fun. Yeah,
Yeah. So did you? Were
we
you
we
raised in Hawke's Bay,
my
Josie?
yeah, partially. My family did the first drive-in fill your flagon, where you could go and get your sherry or port driving in your car, and someone would fill up your flagon with sherry or port, and you could just drive off back in the day. We were very, very innovative.
Yes, you were, and you had a lovely restaurant, which was known
Yes,
as Vidals, obviously, in Hastings. Is that still
yes.
going?
No, that's gone, but some very many good times were had there, and that's where that site is where my family had the cellars where they made the wine and everything, and the vineyards were out in Havelock North and further out.
So
So yeah,
was that your mum and dad and your uncle? Was it?
so it was my father's family. So
Yeah.
great grandfather came from Spain, and actually my grandfather and my father, or my father was born in Australia because they had a branch in Rutherglen in Victoria, which I've been to see the ruins of. It's quite famous. So yeah, quite an interesting little immigrant story.
Are you still owned? Is it still a family-owned operation, or did you
No,
sell?
no, no. Villa Maria.
Oh, Villa Maria
It went
bought it.
through many hands, and
Yeah.
then finally Villa Maria. Yeah.
Oh,
So
but the
that's a
brand still
pity. But
continues, obviously.
the brand does continue, and when my grandfather sold it, he was very specific about brand integrity. So not going to not being put in casks or anything like that. So that has remained. So that's good.
I still have a Vidal Chardonnay on occasion, I have to
Good
say.
on you.
So there you
Well,
go.
Hawke's Bay is some of the best Chardonnay in the world, my friend. So hang on to that one.
Yeah, well, I do. Obviously, people in Nelson and Marlborough would disagree with you, but then they expect to. Gisborne would be another area that they've really gone big on Chardonnay as well. Anyhow, I didn't ring to talk
Yeah.
about that, but we could spend an entire program on that. Josie, how did you end up as what? Are you the chief executive of the New Zealand Minerals Council? Are you?
Yes, I am. And so we're an advocacy body. So I've got a long background in politics. And so we try and ensure that when any government of any persuasion is making policy and law, that they are aware of the impact on the various industries, including our own, and that those impacts don't have unintended consequences that make the industry not viable. So that's sort of our bread and butter. So based in Wellington, unlike you in that lovely area where probably they are relishing the fast track and keen to get on and do things. Wellington's not doing as well. So
No,
yeah, that's what we
it's
do.
a very different interest or a different outlook. You're right, from the peoples of Wellington versus the peoples of the provinces. But
Yes.
good luck in dealing in that snake pit. Listen, having said that, the mining industry has been rejuvenated somewhat by this coalition government, and particularly by Minister of Resources Shane Jones, who has a drill baby drill attitude. But that yesterday got a bit of a shake from the Greens, who aren't just talking about removing future opportunities, but denying opportunities that could be granted in the interim and in the present. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, so just to frame the reason minerals there's a lot of interest in minerals in New Zealand is there is a global supply shortage to meet all the needs we have going forward for modern life for pretty much everything we use. And gold is at a very high price because of the geopolitics of the planet, which makes it very attractive because New Zealand has a lot of gold and it's quite accessible. So internationally, we're seen as quite revolutionary with our fast track legislation to get on and get the gold and other minerals while there's a need for it, while prices are high. And I was pretty excited about that. And I talk to international interests all the time. But then yesterday, I'm kind of back to being a little bit embarrassed about New Zealand and this kind of isolationist attitude, and I guess absolutely no interest or regard in how the world works, how we work as an export nation. It's Monday morning. It's like, are these people in an alternate universe where they don't have to go to work and graft to get some money to feed their family, or what? Because I did have a call immediately after their press event which was a person who represents miners in the industry, and they were very upset um, because the workers in the industry are like, why do these people want to take jobs away from us? We're just working hard. We're in provinces. We're putting money into the towns. Everything's going really well. People want what we do. Why are these people saying it's all bad? And there's many reasons why they are, and I've tried to talk to them about it, but of course they didn't consult us in any way, shape or form, because this is not, let's face it, it's not a mining policy, it's an anti-mining policy.
Yes, they
And
don't like
it's
mining
geared.
full stop. They don't like seabed mining. They don't like gold mining. They don't like coal mining. They don't like mining full stop. It's an ideological view, isn't it? Really, it's almost
Well,
religious.
it is almost religious, and the fast track has been the sort of lightning rod. And there is absolutely, and you know yourself from your past life, there is absolutely no reason why law that is made quickly, but with all the checks and balances, it doesn't have to be bad law. And in fact, this fast track uh, act is having an amendment because before Christmas, because they've sort of worked out that a few things don't work quite right, and we can fix that and get on and do things. This country needs to get on and do things. I mean, every day all we hear is how people are worried about the cost of living, the state of the economy. Well, we're an export nation. We've either got to export stuff, we've got to build some stuff, we've got to do some stuff, and we can't just sit around going, oh no, I think we need 3 years to decide if this law is suitable, if it fits this, if it does that. No, just get on and
But
do
it's a
some
bit more
things.
than
And
that, though,
this,
isn't it? I mean, they are particularly concentrating on coal, what they call hard rock gold, which presumably requires a mine to extract it, or mining to extract it, and then seabed mining. They've been singled out as the Greens because, quote unquote, they're particularly destructive in combination with the way the fast track process has been set up. They said yesterday
yes,
coal mining drives climate change, seabed mining is completely speculative and hugely destructive, and gold mining leads to toxic legacy of arsenic and cyanide-laden tailings dams for generations. Um, so they're going to retrospectively invalidate any uh, approvals that might be given to those particular issues. um, I guess independently, those who are involved in that will make a decision as to whether this is real or not. But it's going to have a chilling effect, would it not, upon any international investment in those industries in this country going forward.
yeah, and that's the bit that really disturbs me, because I spend a lot of time talking to offshore investors, and they're very excited about New Zealand. And then it's like, oh, actually, you're just as wacky as we thought you were. Because I know New Zealand doesn't seem to understand this, but we're a small place in the middle of nowhere with hardly any people. People don't have to work with us or do business with us. We have to fight quite hard to get that. And so the I would say intended consequences rather than unintended consequences of this kind of grandstanding in Parliament is very bad for the country, for the economy, for jobs, for exports, for hardworking people. And why would you do that? And I have been listening to the media since they made their announcement, and I did hear someone from the Green persuasion say, "Well, we shouldn't be mining here. We should just import everything." I'm sorry, but if your objection is the environment,
Mm, mm,
where is the logic in that?
mm. Well, the logic in that seems to be that New Zealand has a pristine natural environment, and that these projects endanger that. So they can't
Well, they
comment on.
don't.
Right,
They
carry
don't.
on.
They're very small footprint. Mining is very small footprint. It's highly productive. It's one of the highest paid sectors of the economy. They tell lies and they use um, images from jurisdictions that don't have the environmental measures we have here. We have some of the strictest environmental measures in the world, which is good. We support that because our members sign up to responsible mining. And so we're fine with that. And the Fast Track Act, which has caused all the hysteria, if you go onto the Environmental Protection Authority website and look at the applications, there are thousands of pages of reports from government departments and experts that explain all the environmental impacts and what measures will be taken. There is no shortcutting the environment here. That is just made up. It's absolutely made up.
This is the Green Party, though. Now, you've commented upon what you consider to be their, shall we say, intellectual probity, but they will not be heading the next government. Listen, we don't need to beat around the bush. The next election is between three centre-right parties and three centre-left parties. It'll be one or t'other. The centre-left will be led by Labour and the centre-right by National. I presume at the end of the day that this policy promoted by the Greens can only be enacted if the dominant Labour Party agrees to it. Have you had any discussions with them about this at all, Josie?
Yeah, so the Labor Party have indicated to us that they would not revoke any fast track projects that were already in play at the next election, that had been approved and were in play. So
Right.
they have indicated that to us. But politics are politics, who knows? I guess we get caught up in our internal stuff, but what concerns me is the narrative about New Zealand that goes offshore, and this is where it's very destructive to have a suggestion that business is bad, that having businesses is bad, and I think that any or either of the major parties and their partners going into government need to think about how they're going to make money. How are they going to make money to run the country?
Te Pāti Māori, have you had any discussions with them?
No, I've had one brief discussion with John Tamahiri.
So have you tried to have discussions with them as to your industry?
Yes,
And what? They're just not interested. Is that
not
what you're saying?
really.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Greens are not
I,
interested either because you're sort of the face of infamy. Is that right?
well, we've become this very weird place, New Zealand, where if I don't 100% agree with you, I'm not going to speak to you. And
Mm,
I'm old
mm,
school. I like us to sit
mm,
around the table and what's the
mm,
problem,
mm,
and how
mm,
do we
mm,
solve it? And
mm.
yep, you've got some environmental issues, but let's talk through them. And the fact that people will no longer engage like that, and the fact that we have tried, and one conversation I had with some people from Greenpeace, I said, well, what is your end game? How do you see New Zealand working where people have jobs and healthcare and all of the things of modern life? And the person said to me, well, I want to go back to pre-colonial New Zealand.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you have a conversation around that.
No. No, no do I. No, and you're right.
And
I've struck those
I
people
hope it's not.
working in fish and game, for example.
I
Exactly
hope
the
it's not
same.
the majority view of New Zealanders. But I also think New Zealanders need to be aware that organisations like Greenpeace are promoting that narrative. They're
Yeah.
not. This is no longer about the environment. It's about changing the way we live,
Mm.
not just for the environment, for a whole lot of other reasons
Well,
besides.
they're anti-capitalist by nature as well, and you would have worked that out too, I'm sure, Josie.
Mm. So I'd be curious to know what the platform think and what your listeners think.
Well, listen, I know what our listeners would think on this issue, and that is that, but the wider issue you're raising at the moment, that Te Pāti Māori, the Greens, Greenpeace, I'd add fish and game and forest and bird to those as well, is run by a whole group of people who are, at the end of the day, have penetrated those organizations with extremist agendas. They are anti-capitalist by nature, and they're great believers in critical theory as well. They've obviously studied far too much sociology at university. When you talk about being old school, I presume you're of a certain age, so you're thinking, I should be able to lobby people if I want to know where they're coming from. At least we'll be better able to answer their questions. You can't even get into the front door, though. Is that what you're telling me, Josie?
Yeah, so the first politician I worked for was a great Northland stalwart called John Carter,
Oh,
and
yes.
I learned very much. I learned a lot from him, but the thing I learned and have taken with me since then is his firm belief that you must sit around the table with friends and foes and have a discussion and find out that you're human, and that there are connections and there will be some common ground and there will be areas that you have to agree to disagree. But I fear that New Zealand is losing that a bit, the ability to do that and to have, because we are down this rabbit hole of social media and everything, where I can just cancel you, or I can turn up at your house and say terrible things about you, or I can contact your employer. And, there's just it's become very mean spirited, I guess, is the light end of the scale, and criminal is at the other end of the scale. And that concerns me. And I've been doing a lot of research and reading on it as the the move by environmental activists very clearly shows that they are comfortable with disruption that harms people.
Mm, mm. Okay, yeah, they're ideologues and extremists. So the very best in luck in dealing with that. In the meantime, you can only talk to the sane people in the room, and the sane people in the room still appears to be the Labour Party, yeah?
Yeah, and they're very engaged. They don't have quite the same narrative as Matua Shane Jones, but they appreciate mining. I work with the union that is involved in mining. And, that's why I say at the end of the day, people are sitting in their little offices down at the Beehive going rah, 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 rah. But there's people in Coromandel on the West Coast, in Otago, getting up and putting on their mining uniform and going to work and earning money for their family. And they don't care about those people. And I don't like that.
Fair enough. Josie, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I'll have the next bottle of Chardonnay and think of you. But in the meantime, keep up with the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Josie Vidal, or Josie Vidal as we like to know her in New Zealand, Chief Executive of New Zealand Minerals Council, on the announcement yesterday by the Greens that if they are in a position of power post the election next October, they will void all of the fast track projects that relate to mining in this country.